loaf of bread. Bread is getting really expensive. So this 10-kilo bag of flour will probably make 25 plus loaves of bread. This is my daughter's recipe. It's fantastic. It reminds me of the nice crusty bread my mom used to get up at the cottage or down in the glebe at Loretta's Bakery. It's fantastic. And the cool thing about it is I've been making bread for years, and kneading bread sucks. You don't have to knead this bread at all. So there's the basic ingredients right there. This is going to take only a couple minutes. In a bowl, 3.5 cups of flour, 1.5 teaspoons of salt, 1.5. And now for yeast. You can use anything. Like, everybody panicked and yeast was next to impossible to find. You can have traditional yeast, bread yeast. You can use the bread machine yeast, or you can use the quick rise yeast. I really don't care which one. They all work. We'll just use the traditional. Doesn't matter which one. 1/2 teaspoon of yeast. That's it, that's all. And I'm just gonna stir it up so it's nicely blended. Get the salt and the yeast distributed in the flour. And that's all you gotta do there. And now, 1 3/4 cups of liquid. I don't care if it's water. I don't care if it's beer. I don't care if it's soda water or half beer and half water. I've been doing the half beer, half water. I've done it with soda water before. It works. So this is left over from my last recipe. So it's flat, doesn't matter. I've just got shy of a cup. Pour it in. Top me off. Yep, that's good. And then the last little bit is going to be 3/4 cup of water. All in the bowl. And now just gently blend it. Just like that. Gently blend it. It's going to be fairly sticky. So it's not going to look like your regular bread dough, which you're going to be kneading and kneading and kneading. This is going to be a little bit sticky. If you're not getting it all blended together, add like 1/8 of a cup more water, but give it a second. It'll all absorb in. I'm just pulling it away from the edges, making sure it's stirred in, punching it down a little bit. There we go. Got a little bit more from the bottom. And there we go. If you have one of those fancy blenders, like I have in the corner, I've done it in the blender with the dough hook. Just let it run for a couple minutes. If that, just pull it together. That's all. And that's basically it. You can see that it is a fairly sticky dough. It's got a little bit of a sheen to it. And that's it. That's all you need to do. It's blended, it's mixed. So now, what you do is you cover it up. I put a pot lid on it, and you let it sit overnight. Sometimes I make this in the morning, and I'll cook it in the evening. Sometimes I mix it before I go to bed, and I'll cook it in the morning. So, put a lid on it, put it to the side. And through the magic of television, this is one from this morning. Same recipe. You see it's doubled up. It's fairly sticky. So what you want to do now is you're going to take your 3.5 quart Dutch oven. Now, I haven't cooked it in anything else but one of these. You can get them at Canadian Tire. This one was 70% off because allegedly that's pink and was for breast cancer. I've turned the oven on to 450. This is going in the oven. So 3.5 quart Dutch oven is in the oven at 450 degrees. There's the dough, which I mixed up at about 7 this morning. It sat for about 10-12 hours. It could be 8 hours. Now you can see how sticky it is. It's really, really sticky, right? It's really, really sticky. all I'm going to do is give it a good stir, and you can see there's bubbles in it, and I'm going to punch it down, give it a good stir, punch it up, let it rise, and well, let it just sit there again with the cover on. There, punched it down a little bit. Now it's back to almost its regular size. I'm going to cover it up. Wait for the oven to heat up for about 20 minutes so that Dutch oven is nice and hot. Pour it in and bake it. And for baking, ovens are always a little bit different. So I've got a gas oven. The recipe says altogether it's baking for 1 hour, 40 minutes with the lid on, 20 minutes with the lid off. My oven, I do 35 minutes and 20 minutes. So, and it turns out perfectly. The Dutch oven has been in heating up at 450 degrees. I'm going to take it out. Remember we stirred the bread dough and we punched it down. There it is, kind of goopy. And we're going to put it in the Dutch oven. Now, one thing I have been doing is I take a little bit of cornmeal and I sprinkle it on the bottom of the hot Dutch oven, pour the dough in, and then a little bit around the edges. It just makes a really, really nice texture. You don't have to do it. That's something I just decided to add. So, here we go. 450 degrees on a really, really hot Dutch oven. Lid off. Sprinkle cornmeal on the bottom. You can tell it's nice and hot. You can see it smoking away there. And then this big, huge glob of dough just gets plopped right into the center of the Dutch oven. You got to scrape it out. It's pretty sticky. And then sprinkle this around the sides. So it's not to help prevent it stick. It's just a really nice texture. All around, a little bit on top. See? Into the oven. Push it to the back. And hey Google, set a timer for 35 minutes.
35 minutes. And we're starting now.
Perfect. So, bake time altogether is
yes, nailed it.
Thanks, Google. Bake time altogether is about 1 hour. My oven is a little bit hotter, so I do 35 minutes with the lid on, 20 minutes with the lid off, and now it is time for, hey Google, tell me a dad joke.
Which Canadian dessert has antlers?
I don't
Chocolate
know.
mousse.
So quickly again, 3.5 cups of flour, 1.5 teaspoons of salt, half a teaspoon of yeast, doesn't matter what kind, and 1 3/4 cups of water or beer or half and half or soda water. Mix it up, let it sit. Do it in the morning when you get up, do it in the evening before you go to bed, and then just bake it in the evening or bake it in the morning. It's that simple. Literally 5 minutes, depending on the loaf of bread. You're going to save a lot of money. And since our daughter showed us this recipe, have we brought bread, Bunny? We have not brought bread. Brought bread. Ben.
Try that again.
Hang on, I'll fix that. Hang on. We have not bought bread. Come back and see when it's baked. It's been in there for 35 minutes. Like I said, check your temperature. 40 minutes is the guideline. And all I'm doing now is taking the lid off. Look at that. That's darn nice. Tell you what. Alright, back it goes. Hey Google, start a timer for 20 minutes.
20 minutes. Starting now.
Fresh bread, 20 minutes. Okay, it's ready. Ready, 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 ready. Okay, tell me that's not nice. That is absolutely wonderful. It just shakes off with or without the cornmeal on the bottom. It pops out just like that. Gonna let it cool. And then we'll cut a slice. Nice and crusty.
That's pretty good stuff.
If you want to keep it crusty, you can put it in a paper bag. If you want to hold the moisture a little longer, you can put it in a plastic bag, but don't seal it up tight. That's the bread right there. It's delicious. Don't use semolina flour. It makes the loaf really small. Whole wheat is good too, although it's a little bit more dense. Half and half is very nice, but regular plain old flour is good for me. I am going to go to Upper Canada Village. They have heritage wheat called Red Fife, which is a white flour, which is just as good as whole wheat. Although supposedly people who have gluten intolerances can use it. Don't quote me on that. But we're going to try it because it's an ancient grain. It hasn't been modified. It's still warm. It's just melting right in. That's good. If you want to, you can also sprinkle sea salt and rosemary on top of it. Enjoy.